Whether you're a new player exploring the world of the Elder Scrolls for the first time, or a seasoned veteran with more playthroughs than you can remember, every new excursion into the world of Tamriel can reveal secrets and scraps of knowledge you may have previously missed. Even choosing the race of your character presents an opportunity to dive deeper into the lore created by the games and their surrounding material. Personally, I've never decided to play as a Bosmer. However, the Wood Elves of Valenwood have unique lore of their own, only adding to the rich and wacky world of this wonderful franchise. In this series, Elder Scrolls Simplified, I will attempt to break down some of the stranger and more inaccessible bits of Elder Scrolls lore in quick and simple videos for the average fan to understand. Today's topic is the Green Pact. So, without further ado, let's explore. As mentioned in the introduction, the Green Pact spawned from the heart of Valenwood and those who occupy it, the Bosmer. These wood elves were not so arrogant as their distant kin on the Somerset Isles and elsewhere, and were instead far more attuned with the flora and fauna of Tamriel. To understand the Green Pact, we must first briefly identify he who drafted it. This god is Ifri, the patron of nature and the forest, a legendary storyteller and provider who channeled his power in the Dawn era to assist in creating the mortal plane itself. From these efforts, nature was formed. Ifri, however, as recompense for his contributions to the world, was robbed of the chance to interact directly with the mortals who showered him with worship. Yet, he was still revered as the chief deity of the Bosmer people, who adored nature and abhorred those who ignored it or destroyed it. Ifri was becoming an earthbone, a very law of the universe itself, as a result of his willingness and ability to devote his power to the creation of the mortal world. In order to preserve his beloved creations, and thus a semblance of himself, the nature god reached an agreement with his followers, the Bosmer, before his time on the mortal plane was through. This contract was the Green Pact. The Green Pact was a list of tenets that wood elves were bound to follow in order to preserve the green, Ifri's domain. The rules were as follows, though not verbatim. Do not harm the forests of Valenwood. Do not eat anything made of plants, or grown of and from the earth. Instead, eat only meat. After a battle, the remains of friend and foe alike must be consumed, as the meat must not be wasted or abandoned to rot. Do not kill without purpose. Do not take the form of beasts. These commandments informed the Wood Elves on their way of life, but also altered the perspective of any who have any knowledge of the Bosmer. No longer could they be seen as innocent, diminutive creatures. The Wood Elves were instructed to cannibalize their own deceased, as well as the fallen corpses of their enemies. Surely such beings could not participate in so horrid a task. But to the Bosmer, this was not an atrocity, but a way of life. Of course, their greatest charge was to preserve the green, the domain of Ifri that the nature god left for his chosen people. Yet in doing so, the Bosmer had to avoid its consumption or destruction in any way. Unlike other mythological creatures associated with flora, the Wood Elves did not make use of the green, but protected it. This resulted in their aforementioned consumption of any and all flesh and blood, a stark contrast to the conjured image of a conventional wood elf. In response to the promise of the Green Pact, the green acted of its own accord in relation to its inhabitants. Rather than building their home in Valenwood, which would have required the felling of the green, the Wood Elves worked in tandem with the forest to grow their home from the trees and roots and plants themselves. If they violated the pact, the green would respond in kind, becoming hostile and even violent in its own primordial way. Though some exceptions existed, the Green Pact was nearly universal, specifically in the Bosmer homeland of Valenwood, and the Wood Elves were even known to take up arms against those who threatened its sanctity. One such power granted them was the Wild Hunt. Though the ritual was seemingly antithetical to the Green Pact, it was widely believed the Wild Hunt was a result of Ifri's promise itself. In the most desperate times, the Bosmer could mutate and transfigure into a pack of ravenous beasts, devouring any and all enemies without the hindrance of morality. Again, the stocky folk of the forest demonstrated themselves far more ruthless than they appeared. So, now let's summarize today's topic. The Green Pact. The Green Pact was a promise created between the Bosmer and Ifri, their patron god of storytelling and nature. This agreement instructed the Wood Elves to preserve the forests of Valenwood, or the Green, as this was the creation of their deity upon the earth at the beginning of time. Instead, the Bosmer could utilize all not sprouting from the bones of Nirn, including the flesh of beasts and other mortal races. The Bosmer were therefore permitted to cannibalize and feast upon the corpses of defeated foes and allies on the battlefield, though this practice dwindled with the passing of time. The Green Pact was mutual, however, and though some caveats existed, the Green itself lived in harmony with its denizens, and made itself known to any dissenters of the ancient agreement. Again, though its popularity shrank with every emerging era, the Green Pact still sat in the cultural psyche, and indeed their very souls, a decree from the one most esteemed in the pantheon of the Bosmer. So, that's all for this video. Leave a comment if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new here. I'd love to have you. Have an Elder Scrolls topic you want to see covered as a part of Elder Scrolls Simplified? Let me know below. And visit my website, russellawellsauthor.com, for exclusive reviews, fiction, and more, and sign up for my mailing list for free exclusive content. The links for both are in the description below. And, like always, I will see you next time.